James Franklin living on the edge. What's new? But this time it turned out in Minneapolis. Penn State 26, Minnesota 25. Welcome into the voice of college football. Breaking down the game we all love each and every day with you. Best discussion, debate, and analysis based on your participation. We'll take your comments and questions below, of course. Please like the video and subscribe. Penn State, it appears, will eke into the college football playoffs here in the first year of the expanded field. They defeat Minnesota 26-25. And, of course, we know that Penn State would have benefited the most from a 12-team playoff during the 10-year run of the 14 playoff. They would have made the playoffs 6 times. In fact, they made the playoffs 0 times. And James Franklin came very close to keeping them home from a playoff participation this time around. But I actually agreed with his gambles in the fourth quarter. Let's get to the action. Minnesota right down the field, 9 plays, 70 yards, touchdown, 7-0. The Golden Gophers came to play and were my upset pick on the day as an 11.5-point dog. I picked Minnesota to win this game. They did not come through for me in the clutch. Drew Aller sacked on a 4th and 4 as Penn State was going for it on the plus side of the field, but barely on the plus side. Anthony Smith had a tremendous game for the Gophers, and that led to a Minnesota field goal that propped the lead out to 10-0. But Omari Evans with a big 45-yard touchdown play for the Nittany Lions to make it 10-7. Then Dom DeLuca had a pick on Max Brosmer, and that led to a Penn State field goal. So the Nittany Lions caught up with the Gophers at 10. Penn State in the first half lost a starting offensive lineman in Anthony Donko, replaced by Anthony Rucci. Now, Donko has had a remarkable freshman season. It is a redshirt freshman season for him, but he started all 10 games, and now he's replaced by Nolan Rucci, and he was seen on the sideline in street clothes with crutches, basically done for the year, we would think at this point, but we don't want to speculate. But that was the scene on the sideline for Penn State. They lost a defensive lineman in Alonzo Ford in the first half as well. Don't know if he came back into the ball game. On the Minnesota side, Darius Taylor, one of the best backs in the conference, had a down week 2 weeks ago as Minnesota was one of the hottest teams in college football, having won 4 consecutive games. Then they went to Rutgers, who was one of the coldest teams in college football, and Minnesota had a fourth quarter lead and blew it against Rutgers. And really that's been the down moment for Minnesota football. They could have come into this game at 7-3 and really on a roll, but 6-4, now 6-5, lost that game to Rutgers. And PJ Fleck admitted this week that he should not have played Darius Taylor against Rutgers. He should have been able to perceive in the first half that he was not right. He did pull him in the second half, and Minnesota really struggled on offense in the running game, and they've got to run the football. And they had Darius Taylor for 17 carries and 58 yards as he is back, apparently basically healthy. Tyrese Mills knocked out by Darius Taylor. Speaking of Taylor, on a hard hit in the first quarter. Mills did come back. He had 5 tackles on the day. All right, this was an interesting play and series of events for the Minnesota special teams as Derek LeCaptain, I did not make up that last name, Derek LeCaptain, he's a 6th-year senior from Wisconsin who was the male athlete of the year in the state of Wisconsin his senior year. And he gave a big speech that they showed during the CBS broadcast, blocked a punt, the first blocked punt for Penn State this year. And so Minnesota set up at the 21-yard line, and it was like one of those one-hand deals while he was being blocked, while he was able to get the hand out and block the punt. So Minnesota took over at the 21. Then they immediately ran a double flea flicker, 2 pitches involved, and Jamison Gears with the touchdown on the double reverse. And Minnesota led this game at 17-10. But Penn State still had time to come down the field and score its own touchdown. It did not appear as though they would have the opportunity. Minnesota should have had them stopped on a couple different times. And most notably on a terrible, horrendous pass interference call against Ethan Robinson, the ball was, for one thing, it was not pass interference in any such way. He barely had his hands on the receiver. There was a little bit of hand fighting, not even what is typical hand fighting. It was not pass interference. Plus, the ball was thrown barely into the white portion of the out of bounds marker. Terrible call. Now, I don't know that Penn State would have been able to overcome that and still get the first down and still maintain possession and eventually score the touchdown. So I'm not going to say that this gave Penn State a touchdown, but they didn't have much time to drive down the field. They had about a minute 10, and this obviously converted a third down into a first down. So I think it gave Penn State a touchdown. It ended up being Drew Aller with the touchdown on the scramble as the offensive line gave him a lane. It was not a designed play, but the defensive pass rush got past him, and he broke contain for the touchdown with 19 seconds left in the first half. But then another Minnesota special teams play on the extra point, 17-16. Jack Henderson with the blocked PAT. He came out and he just Olay block, and he was able to block the 2-point. He turned it into a 2-point return by Ethan Robinson, who was calling for the pass interference. So I'm sure he was excited to pick up the blocked PAT and return it the other way. So that's a 3-point play for Minnesota because they stopped the PAT. They get 2 points there on their own, and they led 19-16 at the break instead of it being a 17 all ball game. All right, second half. Drew Aller missed a wide open Amari Evans, which looked like the same exact play and pass pattern as the big 45-yard touchdown play, but Aller missed him by a mile. That would have been an easy touchdown. He was wide open in the end zone. Aller, though, on the day, really good day out of him. Solid, 21 of 28, 244 yards. Then he shanked a punt after he missed the touchdown throw. They did a quick pooch punt, I should say, and there was all sorts of confusion, and then Aller shanked it, and he was upset about it. He slammed his helmet, came out to the sideline, was not happy about maybe not going for it because it was a 4th and short play, but then also it was kind of bungled in regards to the play call, and they hurried out. And again, Drew Aller was probably not happy about missing the touchdown play. Then the decision not to go for it on 4th down, and then he shanked a 12-yard punt. And James Franklin went back. Good move by James Franklin for all the heat he catches. Nice move that he settled down his quarterback, his leader, went back and talked to him. So Minnesota got the field goal on all that mess and led 22-16 at that point. But here comes Penn State down the field. Finally got the running game going. In the first half, Penn State ran for 10 yards. They got Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, 2 of the best backs in the league. They somewhat got it going. They ran for 107 yards in the second half against this Minnesota defense. Those 2 guys ran for 73 total. And it was Nick Singleton on consecutive runs of 15 and 12 yards. Tyler Warren, talked about during the broadcast as a Heisman finalist. I don't know that I would elevate him to that status. I know that he's a jack of all trades for this team, and he's mighty, mighty impressive. I'd have to. We only got 4 guys going to New York. But Tyler Warren, 3 consecutive receptions on this drive. Singleton scored the touchdown. Warren, 8 catches, another 8 catches for arguably the best tight end in college football for 102 yards. And at this point, Minnesota led the entire game up until 3 minutes left in the third quarter. This is Penn State's first lead at 23-22. Max Brosmer then fumbled on a no-contact play. There was indecision in the backfield, didn't know which way to turn to hand the ball off, and fumbled it. This is with 14 minutes left in the game. Penn State turned that into a field goal with just a minute left. I'm sorry, it took them about 11 and a half minutes left in the game. At that point, 26-22 Penn State. Okay, this is what these situations become crucial, even though there's a lot of time left in a close game. So you think, okay, we got all sorts of time. Minnesota only had 4 possessions in the second half, 2 in the final quarter, and they never touched the ball after the 5:48 mark. So Brosmer fumbles. That widens the Penn State lead to 26-22. Minnesota gets the ball back, but it takes them some time to go 67 yards on 11 plays to kick the field goal to get them within 26-25. I'm sure there was possibly a thought that PJ Fleck thought, okay, let's go for it here at 26-22. We can take the lead, but I agreed with the decision. Kick the field goal. There's still 6 minutes left, and you're going to get the ball back. You would think you're going to get the ball back to kick the game-winning field goal. But Penn State kept the football for the final 5:48 thanks to a fake field goal or a fake punt. And controversial, sure, and certainly would have been had Penn State botched it and not gotten the fake punt because they were at their own 30. That would have set up a possible game-winning field goal for Minnesota. But I definitely smelled that fake punt in the air. And it was talked about during the broadcast between Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson that PJ Fleck talked to them about a fake punt and guarding against the fake punt in their conversations for the broadcast prep. And I saw this one coming to a certain extent. At least I thought this would be a good time for a fake punt. Although, on the other hand, Penn State typically trusts its defense not to give up a long drive. So Anthony Smith, after getting the tackle for loss and forcing the punt, Penn State converts. Luke Reynolds went 32 yards. Then Penn State led the rest of the clock. The entire final 5:48, they converted 2 fourth downs. I thought both were good moves. No reason to risk the field goal, of course, since they already had 2 kicks blocked in this game. And they're not good at kicking the ball anyway. And you might as well just seal the game instead of going up by 4 and giving Minnesota new life. So they converted twice on 4th down. The final one was a pass to Tyler Warren. And your final score from Minneapolis. Penn State wins a big ball game, 26-25. So the Nittany Lions are 10-1. They seemingly have clinched a playoff spot. They could only botch it if they lose to a Maryland team that is 1-7 in the Big Ten. For Minnesota, 6-5, they've got the annual rivalry game coming up on Friday against Wisconsin. Your thoughts about Penn State? They escaped this one in Minneapolis, 26-25. Did Minnesota lose it? Did Penn State win it? And, of course, we will talk Penn State's chances of reaching the playoff and advancing in the playoff all week. Please like the video and subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football.